Welcome to Relationship Mastery, a podcast for those who want to learn how to master the art of creating happy, healthy, and loving relationships. Please join me, Adey-Jones, and my co-host, Barry Selby, each Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific for a lively and informative conversation on everything to do with relationships. Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another chat with Barry and me. So we decided to continue the conversation from last week, which last week we talked about why people have affairs. We're talking about, a married couple or a partnership or whatever. It doesn't, long-term relationship or a committed relationship, and one of the people steps out. And I was thinking about the people we were talking last week about, the people that have been left, how they feel. And the comment made by Trump this week about Epstein stealing, workers from me, basically young girls that were working in his spa. And it just struck me the level of entitlement and ownership over another human being. Like something could be stolen from you, like your, cattle or a possession.
Yeah.
Oh, what, sorry?
Or your lawnmower.
That's funny. But yeah, just it's talk about objectification. But I'm not going to get into that because we all know who he is. But it really had me reflect on sometimes the person that has, let's call it, for want of a better word, the innocent party in the relationship, the other ones that have been left or cheated on or whatever, can often feel not just anger towards their spouse or their partner for having, deceived them or blindsided them or whatever, or done something behind their back. They often blame the other person too. And been there, done that myself. I was very angry at the people that I did not think respected my, I'll call it, union with my partner. And I was upset with my partner too for having done that, but I was also upset at the other women. I felt that there should have been some, I don't know, I feel like respect or camaraderie between women. That there's certain areas where and I know I'm extremely sensitive to this because of my upbringing, but I really wanted to talk about that possessiveness, that feeling that you own somebody. And I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts and feelings about this, Barry?
Well, first of all, this speaks to a bigger topic in a way, which is when people pretend, and I'm using the word intentionally, pretend to be the victim. When they feel like, how could this happen to me? And all this, because we basically, what happens, we turn blindness to what may have led up to this happening. And so there's a sense of justified victimhood, saying like, how could they do that to me? Like, they should never have left me. Back to what you said about Trump with that possession thing, is the sense is they had the assumption that nothing's going to change is part of what's going on as well. It's almost like if they really looked in the mirror honestly, and we'll talk more about it in the conversation, what did they do or not do that contributed to this happening in the first place? Because the denial that happens in front of that is, there's no way this should have happened. There's something wrong here. I'm in a way, it's like, I'm the perfect one. I'm the right one. That shouldn't have happened to me. That sort of mindset that runs through, and it becomes, in some ways, the denial becomes the block to see the truth, frankly.
That's so interesting. You'd spin off in that direction, Barry.
It's what came up for me, let's say.
I'm just thinking, what has that got to do with possessiveness and objectifying the other, ownership?
Let me put two together for you. So the thing is about the possessiveness is, because possessiveness oftentimes is not an active thing. It's almost like one and done. It's like, we're married, therefore you're mine, and that's it, sort of things. There's almost that assumption that rolls through that nothing's going to change. And so that possessiveness, it's almost like a default. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, a little bit, but I don't think you even necessarily have to be married to be possessive.
No.
I think there are certainly, when I was younger, when I was so, my whole, obviously my view on relationships, my everything was extremely screwed up. Let's just put it bluntly. But I used to find somebody's possessiveness over me initially I found it attractive. I thought it meant they really cared about me. Oh, they're possessive and jealous. Oh, it must mean they really care about me. I mean, clearly
Yeah.
you are in that relationship for a little bit longer and you see the toxicity of
Mhm.
somebody believing that you're theirs and they own you and um, it's just so unhealthy on any level and I think you do have to self-reflect and think why on earth would I assume that I can control another person to the degree that they belong to me, that they owe me something? I mean, I do believe that we owe each other honesty. I do believe that for sure. I think that's just respect. That's respect. But we don't owe somebody our life. We don't owe them, we don't give up our autonomy or our choice in life because we've committed to another person. We all have that agency over ourselves to say, I'm sorry, this is not working anymore. I want
Right.
out. I mean,
Yeah.
that's ideally, but there are some people that even I'm thinking about somebody I know who was a mature woman when she even made this comment to me. She was well in her 60s. And as she was talking about her husband had left her and
Mhm.
he had abandoned her, were her words. And I'm thinking, gosh, it's a strong. I mean, children get abandoned, not able-bodied adults. I mean, maybe if you're, you know, I mean, dependent in other ways, psychologically, physically, or whatever, on somebody. Not psychologically. I meant like, you basically you need somebody else's help, not just
Right.
a normal able-bodied person having been left because the relationship wasn't working for the other person. So, but the words were, I was abandoned and somebody stolen from me. And I thought, wow,
Mm.
really strong words for
Yeah.
somebody that is what I considered a mature, intelligent, educated woman in her 60s would
Right.
look at her husband choosing to leave her as that.
But
Um,
that speaks to my point about the victim, is that sense of denial of reality. Because if it's interesting when we have things happen to us where if you step back for a second and just look neutrally at what has happened and transpired before, there might be clues and hints of going that was coming, but we turned a blind eye to it, sort of thing. And so her case, she felt like suddenly the world got turned upside down because she had no clue it was coming, but maybe she didn't notice the clues that were coming, you know?
yeah, I think that's a really interesting um, perspective, and I do think that's actually another show in itself. That the blind spots that we have within our
Oh,
relationships.
yeah.
But I also think that I don't want to get into the victim blaming there because not everybody, something can happen within a person. And again, this is happening with a client right now where um, I suspect they're having an affair. My client doesn't think her husband is having an affair, but there's been such a change in personality, and what's happened is there's been a change in circumstances in that
Right.
he has number one lost a lot of weight on Ozempic, so is suddenly feeling very handsome. He's also changed jobs and got a position where he's earning a lot more money and a lot more travel, so he's feeling really good about himself. He's
Mhm.
now got money, power, wealth, and looks great. And he's been extremely critical about her and the way she looks and the way she's behaving. Now, that to me is an indication that he's either fantasizing about somebody else or he's actually pursuing somebody else. But there is something going on there. And and I think that in that situation, we're going off topic here a bit, but I'm just saying, not everybody, we're going on to the other topic, which is the blind spots and reading the signals. But what I'm saying more is I really want to get back to this possessiveness that we think we own another person
Mhm.
and that people don't have, as I say, autonomy or agency over their own lives, their own decisions. And again, to go back to what Trump said, he wasn't even talking about a romantic or an emotional partner. He was talking about an employee. That
Right.
person could not choose where they wanted to work.
Well, the word that comes up for me, and it's come up a couple of times in when you've been talking, is this presumption of loyalty.
Yeah, that's true.
which is the thing where, so it's not as a possession as much as it is about, if they were loyal, this wouldn't have happened. If, there's a loyalty, like a promise in a way, that they've made some assumption, there's a promise made that they'll never leave. So that way they were stolen from me because they didn't break their promise. They were taken away without them even saying they were going to leave, sort of thing. That sort of weirdness.
I see that when it's in a committed relationship, like a marriage, you can say, but you promised to be with me till death do us part. But
Even a
if
situation, but even that situation with that person, well, say even the one at Mar-a-Lago, that situation there with Trump was a loyalty thing in a sense.
well, I think that's taking loyalty to the nth degree. I mean, it's like
In a way, but
she'd only worked there a few months, and did they, when she signed I don't even know if she signed a contract or she did just employed her. I mean, my God, she was only what, 16, 17 anyway, which is sort of interesting. You can employ somebody in a spa of that age, but yeah, loyalty is a whole other thing, but it's that sort of, I think it's the objectification I take issue to, that you have the ownership, it's like you're mine. I mean, I have employees. If they need to, I did, my housekeeper just had to leave because she was offered 3 days a week, not 1 day a week. She's lost a couple of, left a couple of clients to go and take this 3-day job. And I'm like, good luck. If you ever want to come back, give me a call. I mean, I would never feel that I had ownership over her or that she owed me anything. She gave me notice. I was happy for her. But again, it's this, and again, if you haven't had marriage vows, you've just agreed to be monogamous, say, and you're in a relationship and you're still figuring out if this is, something you foresee as a lifelong commitment or not. It's still the possessiveness of thinking that that you can control another person.
Well, it's also not actually one level above that, because since you're talking about the possessive piece about someone being stolen, there's also, I think maybe it's true for more for men than for women, that if a man's woman partner gets stolen in quotes by another man, there's an immediate comparison between what's he got that I don't have.
Oh yeah,
How
sure. I think that works for women too.
Okay, well, I don't want to presume because I'm a woman, but the framing though of that understanding that the threat they have is suddenly going, am I missing something? Am I how come I can't keep that person? Because again, it's not possessive in that sense, but it's about stolen. There's a sense about, there may be judgment about the partner choosing somebody better than me because I'm not good enough type thing. That's one thing that can come up, but also the feeling that, and this is an interesting dichotomy, because there's the feeling inside about, well, am I the best person on the planet, therefore nobody's better than me, which is one ego point, or just the fact is that you don't want to be around anybody who is better than you that might tempt her away from me. That's so it is a stolen piece, but also there's a self esteem thing in there as well.
Yeah, it's, as you're talking, I'm thinking, I mean, obviously, Trump's behavior comes from incredibly low self-esteem, that he's honestly had to toot his own horn and trumpet how wonderful he is and great he is. So I don't think it would have even entered his consciousness that, Epstein was better than him and why this person would choose to go work for him. It wouldn't even, it's subconsciously, yes, everybody's a threat to him. But I think his entitlement to own somebody does come from that arrogance of, and also, let's just call it for what it is, that narcissistic wound that thinks that that people are objects to serve you. Everybody is narcissistic feed, and it's like, whether you're an employee or a partner or whatever, people are objects and they're there to serve me. And that's what triggered in him, is like, how dare an object suddenly have a mind and legs and walk away? Didn't you realize you're inanimate and you're supposed to just stay with me because I'm God and I decree that you're mine till I want to dispose of you? It's that there's that element to it. And there's also the very, codependent element of the clinginess of you're mine, I depend on you, and even if the commitment, as you say, the loyalty or the commitment hasn't even been verbalized, there's an assumption that it's there.
Mm.
There's the assumption that how could you leave me? I've done X, Y, and Z for you. I've given you this. You owe me this. There's an owing as well, which that
Yeah.
is, it's not just loyalty. It's like, you owe me. You know, I've stood by you all these years. What do you mean you want to leave now? I mean, it's a very common feeling amongst a lot of people that
Mhm.
they owed something. And I must admit, even when I was younger, I was much, much younger again. I was in a relationship where, the person was expressing they wanted to leave, and I was, in therapy at the time, and I remember my therapist saying, it's like, you if somebody wants to leave, you have no control. They're going to leave, what, it doesn't matter what you do. And even if there has been vows and commitments and children and things like that, if one party wants to leave, they have every right to leave.
Yeah.
Everybody has autonomy. Everybody has the right to say, this is not working for me anymore. And it really helped me see that, because I think there was a part of me that was again, because of the verbal commitment, that I thought there should be an effort to work harder on it or stay or whatever it was. But yeah, everybody has the right to leave. If they don't feel it anymore, you got to let them go.
Right. But the thing is, that viewpoint, as you said, you were in therapy at the time, is a more aware viewpoint that a lot of people don't need to get close to. So that's the challenge is in relationship, it's almost like you want to have a pre-relationship conversation about what does that mean to you if we become a couple or married or whatever it is, so you know the other person's viewpoint is amenable to you. Because if you don't know until you walk in the relationship, that person is now going to feel like they own you or they're in charge of you, that you can't do anything else. You may not even want to get in the relationship. And unfortunately, most people, to get to the bottom line, fall in love blindly. They don't know all the facts. They don't do all the due diligence. They don't check in and find out what their partner's about, because everything's so rosy and beautiful and wonderful. And then 6 months in, or take 6 years in, they suddenly realize this is not what I wanted. And then the challenge comes, well, how do I even leave?
Yeah. Well, and also people change. That's the thing. I mean, it might be what you wanted in the beginning. It might feel really good. Like I said, in the beginning of some of I'm talking about very early 20s, when I was really not very healthy. And, and I perceived possessiveness or jealousy as a compliment. Um, and at the time, it did feel good. So I saw it. It wasn't like it was hidden. It was there. It was that possessiveness. But it was only after a while where I saw it as suffocating and strangling and not healthy, and really, destroyed the relationship because of that. Because there were many other wonderful qualities there, but I don't think anybody wants to feel that they don't have the freedom to. And I'm not talking about freedom to go and be with other people if you've made the commitment about monogamy, but just the freedom of choice, freedom of having a different viewpoint, freedom of wanting to spend time alone, even. Um, or exploring something else, or whatever, a different interest or something like that, or spending more time with friends, or things that might your partner might feel is pulling away from them or taking away from them. I mean, that's what keeps a relationship alive, is having that freedom to explore the world on your own as well, and bring that back to the relationship. And again, I'm not talking about affairs unless that's agreed upon too, and that's totally fine. That's an open relationship. That's totally fine too.
Yeah.
But it's the honor that we give each other to tell each other what's actually happening.
Yeah. The biggest challenge, I think, in the whole situation, again, as I said earlier in the conversation, is really being willing to look in the review mirror in a way, like to really understand what it is that could have led to this. Because the blindsided stuff is such an assumption that that we deny. It's like we want to deny. It's almost we want to be the ostrich, basically putting a head in the sand. We don't want to see what's really happened. We want to sit in a place of blame and judgment and going, they couldn't have done this to me, and how could they be stolen from me, and all these different, like, percussive upsets that really don't have basis in reality.
Yeah,
And it is a step further for some people to go, how could I be part of this? How could I be responsible for this? One thing I learned a long time ago is about responsibility, is that there's levels of accountability, which can be like I promoted this happening, or actually made it happen in the first place, or I was even standing by and watched it happen, but didn't do anything to stop it from happening. And in this situation, there's moments where I'm sure if the person who was left behind looked and saw how they made assumptions, or for months and months and months they were too busy at work or whatever and didn't do things, so their partner felt, drawn inside and away from them. There's all these different things and clues that if we just simply stopped and took a breath and looked, we'd see all these things that we could have done things differently if we'd noticed.
Yeah. Or even, and I think what's also happens is because we're talking about almost like the victim and the person that did the stealing. But there is this other person there, the other person that had autonomy and free will to make their choice. And I think sometimes take a marriage where say an affair has been discovered, and that the for want of a better word, we'll call the innocent party, even though we know not everybody's innocent, and the person that stepped out of the marriage. We're just using labels here. What might want to happen is this person over here who stepped out of the marriage wants back in the marriage. The affair was just something on the side. It wasn't something he wants to break up or she wants to break up the marriage for, and wants to reconnect with the spouse or the partner. And they say, I was lured away. They seduced me. I didn't have a choice. And this person here wants to get the relationship back on track. So sometimes instead of holding this person responsible for having chosen what they did, they blame the other person. They blame the person who stole or lured away or whatever it is that you're seeing. And it's a way of basically, because they don't want to hold their partner responsible, because they want to get back to what it was. It's a very tricky.
It's such a sense of denial and unwillingness to take responsibility, or to have the other person take responsibility. It's really interesting to watch people do that, because it is almost like let's hide under the covers and pretend nothing happened. And it's tantamount to being full on bald-faced lying, because it is, to keep the status quo, as fragile as it is, in place just a bit longer so you can maybe get through it. But the reality is it doesn't go away. You can't suppress it. Ultimately, it's going to find its way through out. Upset, blowing it up if it will happen at some point. So that episode, without being resolved, will not go away ultimately.
Well, I think what it is, it's a way of, as you said, it's a way of putting the blame, if we're blaming, instead of, between the couple saying, well, I blame you for stepping out of the marriage, or the other one says, well, I blame you for not making me happy, whatever that blame is. What they've done is they've created this triangle, and they put the blame on the external person who lured them away. And so it's like, okay, well, let's both put the blame over there, so you and I can reconnect and stay together and whatever. And I understand it, and especially if it is within a marriage and their children, and there's just so much to lose for so many people. I can see it's often done very innocently. It's very innocent to he's like, Barry's not having any of this. I can see.
Because the thing about it is, yes, there is the innocence of it and wanting to do that. However, I'm very clear, having watched this with many people, is that suppression or forget about what happened type thing, energetic, it's not a panacea. It won't solve anything. And ultimately what happens is it creeps in other places. Like trust will be between the couple. It doesn't get resolved. So attempting that, it isn't a successful choice. I'll say it that way.
No, and I totally agree. And it is. But as I say, it's often innocence. It's often an attempt at bypassing the taking responsibility within the relationship and putting the blame outside of the relationship, and just a way to try and fix things. But you're right. It's just a delay tactic. But I do think that, and we're going to talk about this next week, because I really want to talk about the other person and what responsibility they do have, because it's not solely the responsibility of a married couple. there
Right.
there are
Every,
people that,
yeah.
yeah, there are people that intentionally
That is,
choose to
yeah.
be the other person, whether it's the other man or the other woman. They intentionally, there's a repeated pattern of always being the other man and the other woman. And so that person equally has to take responsibility for the way they are showing up in their relationships. Why are they deliberately choosing to be with married partners?
Right.
So, but that's something we'll dive into further next week. But
One point I would just illustrate to lead my point about the things creeping in. I use an analogy a lot when I'm with clients about how sometimes we feel like we're painting over rust. It looks really good on the outside, but the rust hasn't gone away. And eventually, over time, the rust will break through the paint. And that's kind of the challenge when you don't deal with emotional baggage, is you can hold down so long, but it's still there. And
yeah,
as long as it's still there, it ain't getting resolved. So, sorry, I
exactly.
want information.
I think I shared with you. I worked with Debbie Ford. I trained with her for many years, and her analogy was not quite so eloquent as the rust and the paint. Hers was, you can't put ice cream on top of steaming poop. The ice cream,
Oh, that's a good one too.
and the poop is revealed. And it's true. It is. But it's again. I think it's natural for the person that is hurt to place blame and on how they perceive the two people that have caused them and their family pain. So I think it was just a very natural response, and one that but again, as we say, it's a natural response, but it's not a response that will help heal whatever that rift was within that relationship. That it's a mild distraction for a little bit to help you get some of your anger out in a place where it's not causing damage in what you're trying to fix. In a sense, it's just delaying it. Is the point. So
Yeah,
yep. But just remember that we all have the right to leave a situation that is no longer serving us, and
yeah,
in the kindest, most respectful, most honest way possible. So I'm not saying just with those three things in mind. I think having a secretive affair does not cover those things. It's
yeah.
not honest. It's
Not
not
at all.
it's not any of those things. But you do have the right to leave. That one for sure. You have the right to say, this isn't what I want anymore. This isn't working. I feel I've grown in ways, and often it's not. Yeah, people grow, people evolve, people change, and that original commitment that might have worked 20 years ago might not be working anymore.
True.
But nobody steals anybody. It's just
Indeed.
Mr. Trump.
Yeah. All right.
I know, I can't help it. Okay, well, we'll see you all next week, and we're going to talk about why people do choose to be in
Yeah.
relationships.
Talk about the third part of the relationship. So third
Yeah,
part of the cheating relationship. Yes.
yes, exactly. The
All
third
right.
person. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. We will see you next week. Thanks,
Take
Barry.
care. All right. See you.
Bye.
Bye. We trust you enjoyed this episode and invite you to share this with your friends and loved ones. In fact, please subscribe to our Relationship Mastery podcast. That way you'll get each new episode, fresh and shiny, as soon as it is released. We'd love to hear from you as well. So go ahead and enter your questions and comments at relationshipmastery.show. Take good care. We will connect with you in our next episode of Relationship Mastery.